Good afternoon, everyone. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and us nerds don't bother ourselves with little details like whether it's morning or afternoon. I am an infrastructure nerd, to be exact, and today we have gathered here to talk about Worldox GX3. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and we will start with who Worldox is. Worldox has been around for over 20 years. They are a leader in this particular segment of the market of document management. And by that I mean the 1 to 50 or 1 to 60 attorney firm size. There are a lot of other players in the area of document management. I manage, to name one, but they are significantly more expensive and typically don't offer functionality that can't be found in Worldox that applies to this size market, this size firm. One thing that in the past iManage and its other products of its ilk have offered that Worldox did not was the ability to very easily connect offices, multiple office firms, and have their documents stored in a single location without using something like terminal services to connect people in. That's actually just changed with the release of GX3, and we'll be talking specifically about that towards the end, what GX3 brings to the table, which was just released a month or so ago. Now, one of the things that people have to make a decision on is whether to use the document management that's built into their practice management software, because most practice management software does have some limited level of document management, or to use Worldox. And the number one reason that people choose a Worldox type product over document management in, let's say, Practice Master, for example, is compliance. If I go into Word and open up a brand new document and type, "This is a document," because I have no creativity when it comes to thinking things up, and look at this button bar over here, you'll notice that for Practice Master at least, we have the ability to open and save documents from Word. Now this button bar will show up in Word and Excel and PowerPoint and Adobe and not anywhere else. But there are other ways to get a document that was created elsewhere into a Practice Master type package. But the problem is that's how I save that document to Practice Master. If I go here or here and click on Save or Save As, or if I click this little disk icon up here, or if I do what I normally do, because I'm very old and come from an era when we didn't have mice, and actually hit Control-S, you don't get the ability to do that. Now with Worldox loaded, Worldox pops up, and that right there is the difference. Let me back out for a second. If I press Control-S without Worldox loaded, or I press this disk icon, or I press File Save As, if I do anything other than going to this Practice Master ribbon and pressing PM Save, I am circumventing saving that document to Practice Master. And that is the number one reason that people choose a Worldox type product over a document management capabilities that would be found in a practice management product like Practice Master. Compliance, getting people to put things away in the right place. Now, you noticed when I hit the Control-S or clicked on this icon here, Worldox does pop up. That's where things differ. Worldox installs onto your network, onto your computers that are on your desktop, and it is sitting there waiting for you to save a document anywhere that you would go to save a document. It doesn't have to be Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or Adobe. Any program that's going to save a document, Worldox can pop up and say, "I'll put that away for you. Just tell me a few things about it." That's huge to some firms, inconsequential to others, but most of the decision over practice management-based document management versus Worldox is based on this one factor. Now there's other things. We're going to cover a lot of differences between Worldox and a Practice Master type approach, but another that comes to mind is that a practice master or time matters or amicus-based approach to document management centers around matters. And the assumption is made that the only documents that you're saving in a system like that have to do with the matters that the firm is practicing on, the clients and the matters that are currently active within the firm. There are a lot of documents that need to be saved in a firm that aren't matter specific. And if you're really looking for the ability to manage all of your documents, your personnel files, your health records, which come under HIPAA requirements as far as who can see what, the firm information from a financial standpoint that only partners or shareholders should be seeing, the accounting information that only the accounting department should be seeing. If those are things that you're also looking to store in a document management system, you end up doing a lot of juggling and a lot of rigging of a practice management type approach in order to make that work. Sure, you can create matters in your practice management system that will represent the different areas that you also want to store documents in, but trying to secure them can become a big quagmire of problems because the regular practice management based approach is not designed with any sort of security built into it. You may be able to have secure clients, but you still are having to go around that and secure the directory that those documents are being stored in. So those are two reasons that people choose a Worldox over a practice master or a time matters or amicus approach to document management. Obviously, when you're buying something like Worldox as an add-on to practice management, it's more expensive because you're adding something on, but there's a lot of functionality to be gained. Now, one thing that you do want to be certain of, and we'll come back here in a second, is that if you are buying Worldox and you have a practice management system, that it integrates. For one thing, if you add a matter, you want to make sure that that matter is going to automatically be added into Worldox at the same time that it's added into the practice management system. And the other area that you want integration is that when you have a matter up on your screen, you have some way to get to that matters documents from within the practice management system. And in Practice Master, we have that. We have that direct integration where the matter that's created is automatically also created in Worldox, and we have the ability to display Worldox documents from the matters screen. So if I click this button here, we are looking at all the documents for Purdue Law Offices, including my demonstration document from yesterday. So those two things do need to be there as far as integration between practice management and Worldox if you are going to go the Worldox route. I can't specifically speak as to integration between, let's say, amicus or time matters and Worldox. I can find those things out if there's anyone that needs to know. I do know that Practice Master does offer this level of integration. Now, what sorts of extra functionality is there and how does this work? Well, first off, let's start with how does this work. If I get out of here and go back to that Word document that I'm creating, this is a document, and I'm going to save it, not using PM Save, but just plain save it. I'm going to Control S, I'm going to save here, I'm going to File Save. Whatever I do, Worldox pops up and says, okay, I'll put that away for you. And this is a client file. I'm going to put it back into Purdue Law Offices, and I'm going to say this is a test of the Worldox infrastructure. And I'm going to say this goes to Purdue Law, so I'm going to go here and type Purdue, and that's the first one that I find, so I hit Enter. I'm going to say it's matter 0, and I'm going to say that it's a, what am I going to say it is? It's notes. Now, this is the document profile. This right here is the name that you would normally give that document. You'll see in a minute that it actually is going to get what's called a document ID, and it's going to be stored that way. But this is the name that people would refer to this document by. This is the client. This is a matter for that client. This is the document type. You have complete control over what those document types are. And then for convenience, it's populated the author and typist fields with my username as I log into the computer itself. This is the document profile, and once I specify these few bits of information and press OK, I have now saved that document to Purdue Law Offices Matter 00. Now, you may have noticed when I did that there were some other fields. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create another document. test accounting document. Another brilliant bit of sample data. I'm going to hit save. We have, at Attorney Computer Systems, we have other ways to put documents away. We have office-related documents. This is where all our employee information goes, where all the documents that we use to manage vendors that we've paid, things like that. This is our best practices group, and we have a best practices set of documents for each of the programs that we work with, and they're just documents that we use to either give to people to explain certain things or that we use to make things happen. These are is our user profile group. Everybody needs to have a place to put stuff that only they should be able to see, and so we've created a profile group called user. And then here's the client files one that we were working with just a minute ago when we put that document away for Purdue Law Offices. Think about a file room for a second, and think about it lined up with a whole bunch of rows of file cabinets, and think about the fact that 90% of those files we'll say are going to be client matter files. So they're going to be and keep the information in their profiles or be stored and sorted according to the client and the matter. But other types of files have different needs. You might have accounting documents that you don't need to tie to a client matter, so you're not going to have that field there. You're not storing them that way. You may store them based on document type instead, like billing documents versus accounts payable documents versus vendor records, or maybe you also have personnel records. So those might have the same sorts of classifications or might have the same sorts of fields that you're storing, but they have different security needs. And so with the Worldox, you're going to have the ability to create different file drawers, if you will. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. The different ways of storing information that not only allow us to kind of classify these documents differently, but also allow us to apply different levels of security and different levels of access to these documents. For instance, the office documents, at least in our system, are open to everybody. But in a lot of firms, you'll have accounting-related documents or shareholder-related documents or personnel-related documents that would only be open to a certain group of people. And that's something that Worldox is going to give you much more control over than any other way of managing documents, including a practice master only approach or including the Windows folder structure that many of us are using right now without any real document management. So that's what the different profile groups are, and that's what is important to remember there, is that you have the ability to group these documents according to what function they serve, how you want to put them away, and who you want to have access to them. Now, another feature that you're going to get in a Worldox type approach that you won't get in a practice management type approach is versioning. Now, I think I have not saved this, so I'm going to go ahead and just get out of here. And I'm going to go back to that other document that I had. Now, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back to Purdue Law. I'm going to display Worldox documents. I'm going to pull up that test of Worldox infrastructure document that we just created. And I'm going to add something to it. I'm going to say this is a new document. And now when I go to save this, it's going to give me the option to save it as version 2, which I'm going to do. And now when I go back into Purdue Law Offices documents, I now see that I have 2 different versions of the test of the Worldox infrastructure document. And if I click this versioning button up here, I'm going to be able to see those 2 different versions. That's a lot different than what a lot of people are used to right now. If you're using the standard Windows folder structure to maintain your documents, you're used to the fact that you can only make a version of a document by storing it under a different name, but trying to name it in such a way that it's going to keep it together. That's a big problem for a lot of people, and versioning is one of the big reasons that people embrace the document management paradigm, because of the ability of a Worldox type product to manage those versions and to allow you to see those versions and yet look at them when you're looking at a regular list of documents as just one document that happens to have multiple versions. With the normal way of storing these within a folder structure, we have a lot of, I've run into a lot of lawyers who have had trouble maintaining that and being able to give them like names that keep them together and that make them manageable. This takes care of that for you. Another thing that you're going to get with a Worldox type approach that you don't have really anywhere else is the ability to search on all sorts of different things. Right now, I've got a search set to allow me to look for a specific client or matter or combination of the two, to limit by doc type or who authored the document, to search based on the text that appears in the file, and that's huge, to search based on text that appears in the name or the comment field. I didn't show you the comment field, but there's an extra box that can pop up and allow you to type paragraphs of information if that's what you'd like to do for each particular document. Or maybe a specific document ID, or perhaps a certain date range for date created or modified or accessed. So I can go in here and I can say, show me all the documents that have the word Purdue. Obviously, in my system, I get a lot of those. And here we have very quickly the ability to zero in on a specific word. Now, this is useful years after you've done something by allowing you to go and say, you know, I know that we did something with a tungsten alloy, and I think it had to do with Champion Spark Plug, but I just can't remember, and we have hundreds of cases for Champion Spark Plug. And you could just search for the word tungsten and instantly, within 3 or 4 seconds, find every document in your complete document store that has the word tungsten in it. I don't know if anyone that is listening right now has ever done this, but if you try to search for a word in a document in just the regular Windows Explorer view, you end up watching that dog scratch the ground over and over, and you end up going to get a cup of coffee or going to the bathroom and coming back, and the dog is still scratching. And the reason is that unless indexing in Windows Explorer is set up very properly and maintained very carefully, you're going to have a non-indexed search. You're not going to be able to find that document using what we call indexing technology. And so it's got to look at each document individually to find that word, and that's why the dog is scratching the ground. It's waiting, I guess, for that information to come up. A lot of capability. I'm not going to go into all the different ways you can search, but one thing to keep in mind is that if we look at search and we build a search that says we want all of a certain client's documents, regardless of matter, that were created or accessed or modified in the last week, we can do that, and we can save that search and pin it up to our button bar, just like we've got this one here for Purdue Law, or Access Today, and that will allow us to create these default searches that can be buttons up here or can also be listed in our bookmarks tab. Well, I don't have any, but they would appear right below this Manage. And so we can have dynamic searches that, obviously the Access Today is looking specifically at today, and if I run it again tomorrow, it'll be Access Tomorrow, only tomorrow it'll be today. So that's a dynamic search that's going to change each time that it's run, and that is huge. Another thing that's big in document management is keeping track of emails. What's important to understand, here's an email from LinkedIn saying that my company page is bare and bland because we haven't done anything with it. One thing to keep in mind about this is that if you store an email in Worldox, I'm going to go ahead and copy this to Worldox, and I'm going to put it in Purdue Law. And I'm going to put it in matter 00 and tell it it's an email. When you save an email in Worldox, it remains an email. And what this allows you to do is to pull all of your documents and emails into the same place and continue to operate on those emails as if they were emails. Some of our clients, well, most of our clients are using Practice Master because that's what we sell, and Time Matters does the same thing. When these products pull an email into the system, it becomes more of a record with a to field and a from field, and it's not really an email anymore. But when I go to Purdue Law and pull up this particular email that I've just profiled to them, let me actually go in this way. and display Worldox documents. And my indexer must not be running. Well, we'll pull up this one. There it is. There it is. It's from yesterday. When we pull this up, it's still an email. And you'll notice I am in Outlook's email client right now. I am looking at this MSG file through Outlook. I can reply to it. I can forward it. I can print it. I can do anything I could have done with this email before. It is still an email. That's huge too. Being able to classify and store these emails without having to worry about whether you're done with them is very significant to most of our clients that are using Worldox. Another thing about the email integration is that, I don't know if you noticed it, but when I got done profiling this, it said, hey, do you want to create a quick profile for this? So if I had, for instance, taken an email from John Smith, who may happen to be working on a certain matter with me for Purdue Law, and I had said, yes, create a quick profile for that, it would appear down here under this Worldox folder. I've got some others that we'll look at. And I would be able to create a quick profile and give it a name that means something to me, like Fraser or Waldegger. And then if I simply drag other emails to that, I am profiling them instantly to that matter. Beyond that, I can also click on a profile down here and actually open up Worldox for that particular matter or type of document right within Outlook. And what that means is that I can actually operate from within Outlook as far as taking emails and putting them into Worldox, and also operate from within Outlook as far as viewing documents for those hot cases that I've set up quick profiles for. So a lawyer that's using quick profiles can set up quick profiles for the 20 or 30 or 40 or 45 cases that are hot to him or her at that very moment, and can then manage those cases and those emails straight from Outlook. Very big. Lawyers, as those of you who are lawyers know, or those of you who know and love lawyers know, love to be in Outlook. And Outlook is where lawyers live pretty much day in and day out. Another thing that I'm just going to talk about, it's not really all that something I can show you, is the automatic archiving capabilities of a Worldox type approach to document management, meaning you can set up the system so that within 90 days of marking a matter inactive, it is automatically archived and taken out of the main Worldox file structure and either copied to a DVD or a CD or moved to a separate area within your file server that doesn't perhaps get backed up except on maybe a weekly basis as opposed to a daily basis or maybe a monthly basis. That's big. Document retention is huge right now, and the ability to get these documents out of the system, out of the main system, but still searchable, still accessible, still stored within Worldox, but over on some medium where they're not taking up valuable active disk space. Another thing that's big in Worldox is the ability to centrally manage the salvaging of files. If I go back to Purdue Law's Worldox documents, and I'm going to delete this document from yesterday. I'm going to hit delete, and I am going to have the option to move it to the salvage bin, delete it, or shred it. And this is a good time to talk about Worldox's flexibility. Any of the functionality, virtually any of the functionality in Worldox can be locked down or customized or removed or added on a user-by-user or group-by-group basis. So on most of the installs that we do, we remove the ability to delete and shred documents and only leave the ability to move it to the salvage bin. That means that people don't accidentally delete, or worse yet, shred documents that they don't intend to delete or shred. They instead move them to a salvage bin that's manageable within Worldox. This is like your recycle bin on your desktop, but if you've ever deleted something from the network drive, you know that it's not as easy to get back, if you can even get it back. Here, we have a salvage bin built within Worldox that's centrally managed and managed by the administrators of the system to bring those documents back. So salvage management is a big part of a Worldox type approach. We also have the ability in Worldox to manage groups and document types and the security. Managing groups, for instance, let's say we have lawyers and in that we have partners, equity partners, and associates. And equity partners are allowed access to certain types of documents, but they're not, other people or other lawyers are not. Well, if you were to assign that access on a document-by-document basis, which is what many people are trying to do if they're using a practice management-based or a Windows Explorer-based approach, it's very cumbersome to manage. Those people change. Those groups change. Somebody becomes an equity partner, they need to be added, and if you're doing it on a document-by-document basis, you need to add their access to 972 documents, whereas in Worldox you have the ability to simply go in and say, Paul's an equity partner now, and by being an equity partner, that group has access to a wide range of functionality or access to a certain group of documents within Worldox, and that just automatically happens. Another thing is the audit trail capability. In Worldox, every single thing that's done, a document being opened, looked at, deleted, moved, created, is monitored by Worldox and logged in the audit logs. And so you can go and say, well, I want to look at the client files, and I'm looking for a certain document or a certain description for a document, and I want to see what users have pulled it up in this date range, or I want to find that document. I can't find the document, and so I want to just put in the doc ID or some description and see what happened to it. And this is how you would find out that this person accidentally moved it to another matter, or that it got moved to the salvage bin where you can go look for it. So you have the ability to monitor and see everything that's happening with every document. I have some firms where this information is used for billing. At the end of the day, each attorney is given a list of all the documents they touched that day, and they use it to kind of jog their memory and say, I should bill a couple tenths of an hour for this, and a quarter of an hour for that. So a lot of functionality there. And last but not least, as far as at least what I'm going to cover as far as the additional functionality, is document stamping. And I had an example of this. I don't know. Well, I'm just going to explain it. You've all seen it before. I don't have it on the screen here, but the little 8-digit code that appears at the bottom of some people's documents that you get perhaps from other firms, very faint, sometimes very small. We have complete control over how it looks and what size it is. Well, that's document stamping, and some of you are doing document stamping already. You may have the full path and file name appearing in that same small shaded text at the bottom of the document. The problem with manual document stamping as opposed to a Worldox type approach to document stamping is Worldox is automatically document stamping. So if you pull up a document and save it as something different because you were merely using that document as a basis for another, Worldox in the background is going to change the document ID and it's going to update that footer, that document stamp. In a manual approach, if you pull up a document that's got a stamp, with, as I said, I've seen a lot of firms that do it with the full path to the document plus the name of the document. If you then create a new document from that, but forget to update that footer because it's not happening automatically, then you've got a situation where your document stamp points to a totally different document. So automatic document stamping, big to some of our clients, simply because it allows them to go back and see what's going on. Now, Worldox has just released something called GX3, which is just the next version after GX2, I guess, as far as some people are concerned. But it does have one exciting thing that it has built into its infrastructure, or its functionality. It has the ability now to, you've seen how I can create a document, and when I go to save, it prompts me to save it into Worldox in my firm's document store, if you will. But what happens when you take that notebook computer of yours home or to a client's office or to the courthouse and go to create a document, since you're not connected to your network, at least in prior versions of Worldox, you simply would get the regular old Word store. I'm going to turn Worldox off real quick, and now I'm going to go save this document, and when I hit save, hello. When I hit save, I guess I turned Worldox off while Word was loaded. So let me do this. Let me get out of here. and not save. And let me go back into Word and create a document. So when I create this document and hit save, we get this. And that is what happens when you're not connected to your network and you go to save a document. So Worldox in GX3 has come out with an additional set of functionality that they call the enterprise server that basically takes this capability outside your network. What that means is that if you add the enterprise server to Worldox GX3 and then take a notebook that's been set up with what we call the cloud client, it looks exactly like the regular Worldox client, which is what's popping up and what's showing me those lists of documents, then no matter where you are, you can look at documents from your firm, you can retrieve them, you can change them and save them back to Worldox. If you go and create a new document and hit save, Worldox will pop up, and when you save that document, it's going to be saved at your firm. Now, of course, this requires an internet-connected computer, but as long as the computer's connected to the internet and running this enterprise or cloud version of the Worldox client, you basically have access to your Worldox documents and your ability to save Worldox documents or save documents to that Worldox document store from anywhere. The courthouse, your client's office, anywhere that you have an internet connection. And that's huge. That actually is the one thing that the big boys, the iManages, had that Worldox didn't used to have, and this now gives Worldox the ability to compete in a much bigger market at the same price. You see, the iManages are priced at about $1,000 to $1,200 per seat just for the software. Worldox is priced in the $425 range for just the software. So as you can gather by those numbers, it's significantly less expensive, not only to implement, but to maintain. It's a simpler infrastructure. It's easier to maintain. It doesn't require SQL. So that is all I'm going to tell you about Worldox for today, unless we have any questions. Leanne, do we have any questions?
No questions, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess I either put everyone to sleep or did a very good job of explaining Worldox. Nonetheless, if you do have questions that you think of after the fact, give me a call at 1-800-475-8104 or an email at paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, P-U-R-D-U-E, paul.purdue@attorneycomputersystems.com. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good rest of the day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.